Hello and welcome to this week's Goddess Asteroid podcast, which is going to be focused on the 1212 portal. And just when I think things can't get more exciting, they do. So I'm hoping today to share in the simplest way and in a quite imaginative way the incredible things that are going to be unfolding in the next few months. Now, you may read about this in other places on the internet. You may hear quite negative things about what's happening. And I think that that is true, that we're going to hit a really challenging time. This is a time where a lot of karma and ancestral karma is going to come to the surface. So there's a lot of potential for healing, but it's also going to be really difficult to the kind of everyday self, especially for people who don't have a kind of bigger perspective. So I'm hoping to provide that bigger perspective. And also the goddess asteroids, for me, they always give us a doorway out of the karma, or a way forward that's really clear. And the gene keys just give this whole other level of information that is just kind of just tells the story so much more succinctly and beautifully for me. So this is a synthesis of astrology and gene keys. And, you know, don't feel you have to understand it all. Just take what you need and want from it. And that will be perfect. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. This is the chart of 1212. And there's quite a lot of really interesting things going on. Now, this came into my realm a few days ago. I watched a podcast with Melanie Reinhardt, who mentioned this. I didn't know about it. And so I've been doing some research on it, but I'm not a Vedic astrologer, so I'm going to say that up front. So an apologies to any Vedic astrologers if I get something outrageously wrong. But what I'm going to do is kind of look at it from the point of view of astrology and Western astrology, and also what the goddess asteroids are up to, which I think is really interesting. Okay, so there's this event going to happen. It's called the Kala Sarpa. I think that's how you say it. And I'm going to write it underneath in the thing, so you know what I'm talking about. And what it is, it's a pretty rare event. And what happens is, I'll just pick up my pen to show you the moon's node. So this is the south node here. It's at 0 degrees Sagittarius at the moment. And this is the north node. And this is at 0 degrees Gemini. Now, these are considered to be the tail is the south node, and the head is the north node of a great cosmic serpent that crosses the heavens. And there was once a mythical battle where this great serpent was cut in half. It is connected to Draco, which was the pole star in Sumerian times, and it's connected to the moon. So these are the nodes of the moon. Now we can see here, okay, the nodes pretty much all the time are moving retrograde, and Mars here is moving anti-clockwise. So all the planets, by and large, are moving anti-clockwise unless they're retrograde. So Mars is about to cross over here. So on the 14th of December, Mars will be that side, or conjunct actually the south node, but moving that way. And what we have is Ceres on this other side. She is the mother goddess, and she holds the great mysteries of the divine feminine. She was the first of these goddess asteroids to be discovered. Now she's going to take a bit longer because she's going retrograde as well. So she kind of spends some time outside of I'm calling this the egg of the great serpent, everything that's in here. But she's eventually going to go in and come out again. So she's kind of a transitional body that's going in and out. And the only one of all the first 6 goddess asteroids that are really the most important ones in a reading, Hygeia is the only one outside of this huge egg. So you can see all the planets, all the asteroids are contained, and this is the imagery I get, is if all of this is an egg and the serpent has wound itself around this great egg and is incubating it, basically. It's like, whoa, this is amazing. And apparently what's quite rare with this particular time this is happening is that everything is pushing towards the north node here. Okay, so where it begins is that the south node is in 34. This is the shadow of force, the gift of strength, and the city of majesty. So we're seeing a lot of this force energy in our world at the moment. You know, governments becoming more and more forceful around the vaccine. This is all kind of popping up since the nodes have been there in 34. And actually with Mars coming into that energy field, what we're likely to get is either protesters becoming violent, police becoming violent, you know, the force actually increasing as Mars comes into this over the next week. So we'll watch the space and see how Mars manifests in this shadow of force. But of course, Mars can also manifest in the gift of strength. And sometimes the gift of strength is actually about showing a lot of restraint, about working on your inner process and coming back to the neutral mind. And then we have the gift of, you know, the city of majesty. Well, I always think of the mountains when I think of majesty. Okay, and then on the other side with the North Node, the 20th gene key, this is the shadow of superficiality. It's the gift of self-assurance and the city of presence. And one thing I've discovered in my life is that the greatest strength you can have is to be present with your partner, your children, with all your worries, anxieties, doubts. You know, this quality of presence is really life-changing. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this more next week's podcast. But what's going to happen when we get the Venus going retrograde on the 20th of December. And we also have a nodal shift then. These nodes are going to go into the Taurus and Scorpio axis, and they're going to shift into the 8 north node and the 14 south node axis. Now, I think this is going to be amazing, because this is giving a quality to this, you know, very challenging time of karmic healing. And it's really going to challenge us to shine in our creative genius self, because the shadow of 8 is mediocrity, and the shadow of 14 is compromise. And our entire education system, our whole culture, you know, we like to talk about individuality, but when someone's really individual and making their own choices, a lot of people don't like it. And again, I think we can really see this through the whole vaccination issue. You know, this isn't about whether you want to have the vaccine or not. It's more about the patterns and shadows that you can see unraveling through the polarization of people vaccinated and the people who are not vaccinated. And so, you know, there's this kind of homogenization in our culture that, you know, we're taught from quite a young age to follow what outer authority says to us. Now, this is something I kind of really have experience of, because I grew up under apartheid. So the outer authority is completely corrupt. And from quite a young age, I kind of learned to follow my inner authority. And I still do that now. And that can bring me into conflict with outer authority. Yeah, so I think this time is going to really show up where we have fallen into the shadow of mediocrity and compromise, and perhaps we've been doing that such a long time that we have completely squashed all our dreams, all our true nature. But this is a time it's going to start trying to come out, you know, and sometimes the only way it can get out is a severe personal crisis, like an illness or a death or a loss of a job, a loss of identity, that can kind of catapult us into a new way of being. And this also applies to countries as well. So with America having its Pluto return coming up, I think it's going to be really interesting to maybe look at it through these eyes. You know, America started off with the great vision, the great dream that so many other countries have followed. But is it now in the shadow of mediocrity and compromise? You know, what happened to those great dreams of democracy and equality, and all those good things about the American dream? So yeah, interesting things to contemplate. Okay, let's just have a quick squizit at what's going on here. Vesta, who very much represents this issue around inner authority, she was in Gene Key 5 at the time of the solar eclipse, and she's still there. This is about impatience, patience, and timelessness. Then the sun is in 26 line 5 at the moment, one of my favorite gene keys, because it's my purpose, and it's all about the trickster energy. You know, and it feels like that's what's coming in. I'm just having like massive downloads about all these things are unfolding, and it does seem to have a sort of Merlin trickster kind of quality. You know, this great serpent is doing something amazing. So yeah, if we think about all of this as in the egg at the beginning, you know, this is the fertilization of the egg right at the start. We have Mercury crossing the galactic center. It's just crossed the galactic center at Gene Key 11, line 6. So this is a powerful point for Mercury, and actually to receive downloads from the cosmos is perfect. So I wonder if any of you out there are also experiencing the same thing. Okay, we have Juno in Capricorn. Now, this whole Capricorn little thing going on here is really important, because this is where Venus is going to go retrograde at winter solstice. We have Pluto in there as well. We have Estrella, and we have Juno. So these goddess asteroids are really going to be in a dance with Venus. And what I'm feeling is that a great goddess wisdom is going to arise from this. So we've got Juno in 38. You know, this is the warrior of light. This is about the city of honor. And it's going to be one, if you join my 40-day Venus retrograde mudra practice, this is one of the ones we do, and it's the bear grip, and it really strengthens your aura around your heart, just holding this bear grip for a while. So it's interesting to have Juno there, because she's all about the sacred marriage, the balance of the masculine and the feminine. We have 3 bodies here in Gene Key 61. And this is about the sanctity of the body. That's how I'm thinking about it, as the sanctity of the body, as the temple. That's what's really coming to me. Again, this is one that's in the mudra practice, and it's called the sheltered place. So, you know, this healing, especially of the feminine body, and all that's happened historically to the feminine body, the right-brained way of thinking. I've just been watching or listening to Demeter George, who was one of the first astrologers who brought through the goddess asteroids, and she's talking about a big change in consciousness that happened around 1500 BC. Pretty much before then, people were very right-brained. You know, oracles, a king would not make a move without consulting the oracle, without consulting the gods and aligning themselves with that. And then we start to see logic coming in, which is an evolutionary process, so not a mistake or anything. But what we have then is, you know, 9 million women are killed in the witch hunts. So many of the right-brained DNA is kind of wiped out in this massive, horrific event. And what follows that is many of the right brain kind of people go into monastic life, and they don't have children. So again, the genetic lines start to fade out. And for those who are left behind, this is certainly huge fears I've had to work through as a priestess astrologer. You know, you keep yourself hidden, and it's very scary. And, you know, even if it's just disapproval that you're met with now, or being kind of crazy or quirky or whatever, yeah, it's just that it's quite hard to be openly in these oracular gifts, even in this time, even though there's no physical threat. Well, there's in some countries actually, but not here in Britain. You know, people just say you're mad, or, you know, treat you like you're stupid or whatever, or wacky. Yeah, so yeah, Christianity still has a lot of issues, even though the Magi were there at Jesus's bedside. You know, it's like, okay, and you think it's okay to persecute astrologers. Well, there we go. Or think they're meaningless. You know, that's another way of, you know, just ignore them, pretend they don't exist. Okay, so this is all the Capricorn stuff, the breakdown of the old systems of our society and the creation of the new. So for me, this is intensely exciting. I mean, I've been so excited about what Venus is doing anyway, but to find it in the middle of this egg that's being incubated by the cosmic serpent, I'm like, beside myself with excitement of what's unfolding, really. Okay, won't say anything, you know, we've got Saturn there in Aquarius, we've got Jupiter in Aquarius. I'm not going to say too much on them. But I did want to say something on Pallas Athena. Is 8 degrees away from Neptune then. So these two are in the codon ring of divinity. Pallas Athena is one of the most ancient of healing oracular goddesses. If we go back from Greece, we find her in ancient Libya at the Siwa oasis, which has some incredible priestesses. And they know from the archaeological remains there that these priestesses knew about geometry, calculus, and trigonometry long before Greece did, okay? So the Greeks took this knowledge, or was given to them through the transmission, but it wasn't a white male thing. It was an African female priestess tradition that brought this transmission, as far as we know, for the first time to the earth. And I feel it's really important to honor that, you know, to honor the lineage in the African woman tradition that has been massively squashed in the world. Yeah, again, I refer briefly to the amazing film Harriet, who was definitely of that oracular gift. So it's a Harriet Tubman film on Netflix. So watch that, as so good, so inspiring. Yeah, so where we have Pallas Athena there with Neptune, that is an energy actually of the oracle, of the imagination, of, in a way, the logic and the imagination coming together in this codon ring of divinity. And we have Neptune is in gene key 22, line 3, this all-important gene key for the divine feminine transmission. So it's just perfect. I could never fault the creator's plan, that is for sure. Okay, and one last thing I want to mention here, that on this 1212 portal, and my chart is for 1212 in the UK, in Hebden Bridge, where I live in Yorkshire. So what we have at that time is the moon is 1 degree away from Chiron there. So this is another healing of the moon, the divine feminine energy. You know, the moon holds all the potential of the divine feminine mother within her. And then, you know, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have Ceres, who's another you know, when we look at the mother archetype in the chart, we're going to look at Moon and we're going to look at Ceres. And she's, as I say, conjunct the North Node, the karmic destiny, the head of the serpent. If you imagine that she is on the lips of the great cosmic serpent, it's like, oh, exquisite. Yeah, so Moon and Chiron, in Gene Key 17, line 5, well, this speaks to me so much of the oracular priestess tradition as well, because, you know, this is the gift of far seeing and the city of omniscience, where you see, you know, time and space is just everywhere and all the timelines converge, and it's just it is the oracular city, really. It's got to be. I mean, some of them are as well. Yeah, and this is the shadow of opinion. And again, don't we see that playing out so much in the polarization of the whole vaccine issue? You know, can we be somewhere neutral in the middle, where we're actually, you know, curious and open about why people are taking it, why they're not taking it? You know, what are the real issues for everyone? You know, can we be compassionate around that? When we're open to seeing the difference in people's opinions, then we return to this oracular way of being, which, as I say, has been so wounded in the world. So it's great to see Chiron here, because Chiron is the one who heals those wounds. And in Aries really is another energy that doesn't want to be homogenized. You know, Chiron in Aries really wants to be seen and heard for their individual self. Okay, so thank you for listening. As I say, I'm doing this Venus Moon Sanctuary on a platform I work on called Soul Tribe Online. I'll put the link below. At present, it costs $29.99 a month to subscribe. It is going up soon, but not for people who are current members. So get in there. My 40-day retrograde, which is going to be so deeply healing for the body in Capricorn, is going to begin on the 20th of December. And yeah, so there's a live call every week as well with astrology. We'll be having ceremonies at key points along the way. So it's really going to be a fantastic journey. So if you feel this kind of priestess oracle stuff is all to do with you, and you are one of those priestesses, you know, come and join us, and you can cancel anytime if you find out it's not for you. You can do that, but this is special. This is really special. So listen to your heart, listen to your inner knowing, your inner sovereignty, and take action if the call is there. Right, I think that's it. I'm pausing for a breath. And I'm going to say goodbye. And as I say, next week, it's going to be a really powerful podcast as well, going into more detail of what's going to be happening. So namaste. Go in peace.